Alrighty, hello every folks, and good morning. Welcome to a new campaign for Together in Battle. So we're just going to go ahead and hop straight into this one here. Because this is one that's got a bit of a design contest kind of thing coming up soon, sort of like a little micro campaign design contest thing. And so as a result, I wanted to at least run through the campaign quickly just to give people a sense for what this game is all about. So first and foremost, I'm going to skip over the intro because there's narration over it, and I want to just chatter right now. But basically, the setup for this game is that you are a person that is trying to come up with an army. You're trying to train up an army to go deal with a scenario in another country, another game, basically. And so as a result, you're being sent into a place that has constant gladiatorial games to build up your own gladiatorial team in order to sort of give them a whole trial by fire and walk away with a competent kind of army unit, as it were. Now, as far as all that stuff is concerned, we'll get into the mechanics of all of it in just a bit of a moment. But difficulty-wise, you've got options that essentially are all variations of how good is the AI, how permanent is your permanent death, and how is the money situation. So personally, I feel like Challenging Plus is kind of the sweet spot here, being a case where you have active permadeath at all times, but it's not guaranteed to happen. The AI is good, and the money situation is normal as the game was originally intended. So for example, if you go up to, like, let's say all tactics and brutal, in those particular cases, yeah, those other situations go up, but I'm personally not a fan of a situation where they're always guaranteed to die. I feel like in the way that this game's structure, I kind of like the whole, like, having a chance and also not having a chance kind of thing, so we're going to go ahead and throw that in there. And we're going to go ahead and get going. So we're going to go ahead and play it on Ironman mode, and let's go ahead and get started here. So we end up landing in town, and it's, I guess you could say, a little bit of a mix of a lot of different things. You've kind of got the sort of, dealing with the local problems situation of something like Jagged Alliance. You've got your custom team from a lot of different SRPGs. You've got gameplay that's very reminiscent of Fire Emblem combined with Tactics Ogre. And you've got a lot of sort of personal beefs between all of your characters that feel very Persona-esque, I guess you could say, if Persona was a lot more open-ended, because in this case, every one of your characters, for the most part, are going to be randoms. And so, what we're going to do is we're just going to go ahead and take a look at some of the recruits here, and just sort of see who we end up starting the game with. So, when it comes to all of your characters, there is a ton of different classes in this one, all of which will function individually and will function in unique ways, but these classes are further modified by the character's spreadsheet, or stat sheet rather, which will determine things like their background, their proficiencies, their jobs that they've had before, and these can lead to a lot of interesting scenarios. Let's say somebody like we have Kyrie over here from Felseal. You can actually have custom characters in the character pool, so I'm just going to go ahead and pop a few of those in there if I see them. But every one of these characters will have different skills depending on their class, their background, whatever else. Like right here, I want to go pick up an engineer because I really like engineers in this one. Let's see, we've got axe fighters. They're good, like standard DPS types. Mentalists, which are basically psychics. Pyrokineticists, kineticists, different types of wizards, basically. Sky Kineticists are basically debuff wizards. One bowman, I'm going to go ahead and take one of those because I do like those. No lizards. I would have liked to see a lizard, but we got one very fancy swordsman over here. Cavalier, which is basically exactly a Fire Emblem Cavalier, and then one Spearman, who's going to be a very defensive sort. So you have 6 minimum that you're required to start the game with, and we'll go ahead and go from there. I believe the bit where they tell you to start off with a kind of recommended team, we'll just start you off with a balanced team in general. But with all of that being said, all of these people are going to constantly interact with each other. So depending on their backgrounds, depending again on who they are, they'll go ahead and talk with each other in all kinds of different ways. Like we've got our guardsman meeting with Carrier over there. We've got our engineer meeting with our swordsman. Apparently she's going to be a paranoid sort. So she's already accusing our swordsman of following him around. Let's see, apparently he's going to be a very quiet sort. Let's see, these two... alright, well, interestingly enough, seem kind of shy about each other. Anyway, so I wonder if we'll end up seeing anything popping out of that. So one thing that is worth noticing is that as you carry on, all of your characters will develop various different types of relationships, whether it's friendships, whether it's just camaraderie, whether some of them start trying to hook up in the background. They'll depending on all kinds of different backgrounds, they'll be doing different stuff all the time. So first things first, we'll just go ahead and head to the arena, get our first few fights out of the way, and get our kind of party started proper here. So we've already done this before. I've completed this campaign before. So what team are you registering under? Well, name of the contest is a secret, so we'll go ahead and say secret. There we go. That's not an awkward name at all. You sure about that? Yes, nobody can know. No one will ever possibly know. Let's advertise it. Okay. Already a pro, don't need to do the qualifier. Because everyone needs to pass the qualifier, fair enough. Now, there's a lot of sort of side objectives to complete as you're going through the campaign, whether you choose to actually try to win the tournament, whether you choose to fix the political issues, or whether you try to just survive to the end, try to solve the mysteries in the background. It's good times. It's good times. It's cool to see that sort of variation there, you know? Alright. Now let me switch over to... Okay, I didn't have the controller active. Alright, so the turns work, if you're familiar with a Knight of Lotus, not too dissimilarly from that. So we'll go ahead and move over here. We'll go ahead and just take a regular axe swing. Actually, probably even a more dramatic one to go for a one-shot here. There we go, that gets him out of the picture. Let's see, we get our more defensive swords guy. He'll just go take a regular swing against this one. Perfect. Probably have the Cavalier try to circle around the side, which they won't be able to. That's fine. Go ahead and stab this one. Why are we getting a little bit of performance jank? I swear, there's always something... Oh, that's probably why, because I forgot to turn off Chrome. Whoops. No kidding! No wonder it's not working right. Chrome affecting things? Say it isn't so. Alright, anyway, so yeah, we'll go ahead and go this way. We'll go ahead and throw down some caltrops over here, just for a little bit of extra experience. There we go. Good old happy caltrops over that way, and then you can go ahead and archer your way on this way. Finish off that one. There we go. Alright, much better. So, with that all said, we can go ahead and end our turn, and that will be that. So, once we complete this tutorial, it's basically off to proper fights. Once you really get going here, the fights get more and more difficult, and it's more or less kind of how the game plays to try and keep everybody alive while trying to manage multiple back-to-back fights, while dealing with investigations in the background, while dealing with just characters having their own little side stories and whatnot. And then trying to manage everything else accordingly. So we'll go ahead and pick up these bags just to make sure that we have everything here. You go ahead and grab this one, you go ahead and grab this one. Because while you're in the arena, if you try to leave the arena without picking up your stuff, you will lose it. But this is all contextual. So, for example, if you're out in the field and let's say somebody raids your camp, any supplies left over will just essentially go to your inventory. If you decide to try to leave the arena early without picking up your stuff, you're essentially ushered out without any sorts of issues, but you won't be able to collect your stuff. If you are in the middle of, let's say, raiding a place, it depends on whether or not you're chased out or whether you actually claimed the place. Anyways, so it looks like this guy is going to be a singer. Apparently he's trying to be Ramza over here. Let's see. Ivy convinces Natalie to play a game of Cavasphere with her. They set up a nearby field with holes 30 feet apart and balls scattered between them. They then spend the evening dashing about, trying to kick as many balls as possible into each other's hole. Are these two starting... Well, anyways... They collapse at the end of the game. I think you won, she wheezes. I was gonna joke earlier, these two totally look like they'd be a couple, but like, damn. Anyway, moving on. See, Xena sits up at the edge of the camp and commits on working on new combat move to muscle memory until she grows too sore to continue, and despite her attempts to hide it, Kyrie is clearly not feeling well. She goes straight to bed. Vijay grabs a notebook, sets up at the edge of camp, and spends hours running through solo combat drills. He maintains a detailed log as he goes, complete with precise measurements. So this guy is definitely a soldierly type. Alright, so the camp is all clean, nobody really had to do much of anything, and we move on to the next day. And that's basically how this goes, over and over. You have different events that pop up pretty constantly. Different interactions between different things throughout town. Sometimes there's just scuffles happening in the town itself. Sometimes there's going to be, like, let's say, just ghosts attempting to communicate or whatever else. There's all kinds of stuff that ends up happening. Well, I'd like to see about going to the recruiter while stuff is still cheap because things get more and more expensive as the campaign goes on. So let's see here. Especially if they have golems, because golems are amazing. Let's see. We got one golden sprig. He's gonna be kind of expensive. A photokineticist, which is basically a camera wizard. And yes, we got Benny from New Vegas over here, just basically right showing up for his bad ending. Funnily enough, you can actually have characters just like XCOM 2 showing up as like sort of opposing enemy units as well. That's why he was set up in terms of his one New Vegas scenario where he gets assassinated while naked. Anyway, moving on though, I would like to have some backup units, and I would like to have at least one healer. So I'm going to get this lizard type, which is basically like a bishop, and I would like a shutdown unit. So we'll go ahead and buy her, and then we'll go from there. So that'll give us a few extra things to play around with, just in case anybody dies, just in case we need some people doing extra work off on the side or whatever else. And then let's go over to the shop and just sort of see if there's any early stuff to go pick up. Seeing as certain items, well, basically items in general will kind of spawn at random here, which will give you all kinds of different bits and pieces to kind of work through here. Especially if we can find any infinite weapons, that would be great. Like, you can find completely unbreakable weapons every now and then. Sturdy is good. Unbreakable is a whole other thing. Weapon used by Cavaliers, range bonus +1. That's interesting for a spear. We don't have any crossbow users. We got a bow that's vindictive, apparently. Let's see. Heavy brilliant bow causes the unit to lose the ability to counter attacks. So that's kind of interesting. It's also pretty cheap, so I think we'll go ahead and pick up one of those. Let's see. Armor-wise, some very basic armors laying around. A lot of the stuff typically gets pretty expensive, but I'm going to buy some cheaper stuff to throw around the party. Plus 12 health. Do that. Bracing gloves grants shove, physical fighter, and light armors only. Yes, anything that gives another skill is going to be worth it. Accuracy booster, definitely worth it. This is one of those games that you definitely don't want to be missing attacks. More bandages, more focus pills for sure. Pick up more food, because this is one thing that you definitely will inevitably end up forgetting at some point. And that's probably fine there. Okay. Alright, so we'll do all that. I'll hand out those items in just a little bit. I just wanted to make sure to have them in the inventory. And let's go ahead and move on. So we'll give them free reign. Usually this is what you want to do because it just basically allows everybody to see everything through. Like, if you're trying to build up a relationship between two people, oftentimes you can't actually force it. There's very few occasions where you'd be able to. Anywho, going back to it. So Milton cannot bring himself to do anything this evening. He crawls into bed, curls up into a ball under the covers, and stays there all evening. Oh man, this dude. Huh. Kyria grumbles about feeling tired, then wanders off to lie down and rest for the evening. Witch has apparently hired all the depressives. Natalie spots Ivy in her vicinity. They exchange pleasantries. Then Natalie begins dishing out gossip about other teams from the arena. Ivy listens with a combination of incredulity, shock, and amusement. Aha, that is wild, she says. Vijay and Xena decide to spend the evening honing their combat techniques together. Hilariously, he is the spearman, she is the engineer. How that works, I don't know. Apparently she builds barricades and he runs over them. But it does cause her to level up, so that's pretty cool. Oh, and she actually learned how to place braziers. That's neat. So that's useful. Let's see, Persephone tidies up around the camp, scrubbing the pots and pans and washing the dishes and silverware. Well, thank you for cleaning up. Limib goes through stretches and breathing exercises, then works on committing a new combat move to muscle memory. The day is over. A new day will soon dawn. And water flows through the earth. Anyway. And by the way, as far as the character pool went, I didn't get a chance to fully remake the 7 or 8 pages of custom characters I had earlier on in the reviews. After I accidentally deleted my entire list, I'm up to 2 at this point, but whatever. Anywho, moving on though. Right now we're going to take a lot of arena fights. Later on, especially once we end up getting more golems and such on the team, it'll be a lot more worthwhile to... here, hang on, what is your name? There we go. Learn the arena organizer's name. Well, anyway. His name is apparently Gooped. I forgot what I was going to say. That's a shame. I'm genuinely annoyed by that. Anywho, so yeah, once we get golems and such, we'll be able to do more manual labor type of work. So we'll do that as it comes. Let's go ahead and just kind of put the original basic team in there and do that. In fact, actually, let's go ahead and leave the... We can only put 2 in, so we're going to try out the new guys, and we're going to leave these 2 over here. The reason for this is if 2 characters are getting along particularly well, and you want them to sort of figure out whether there's something more going on there, that's when you would kind of give them a bit more rest time than everybody else, so that they're not too tired. Right, so the battle is a game of wits, we just have to be smarter and we'll win, he says. Well, yeah, okay, whatever, we still got a numbers advantage, this should be fine. We'll get Milton over this way, they've just got an engineer over here, and both of our heavies are in that direction. They've actually got another engineer over here, so that works out pretty nicely. Yeah, nothing for her to do just yet, so we're just going to do one of these. This team's all engineers, actually. That's kind of funny. Oh, well. So yeah, let's go ahead and put everybody over in these directions. I see that there's a lot of very minor things that got fixed since earlier versions. Things like going to the edge of the map could potentially have had other issues. But that's neither here nor there at this point. One more thing to bring up is that when it comes to these characters' stat sheets, I never really explained what it is that they do. So aside from their jobs and things like that, even things like, for example, how many counterattacks they get, whether or not they're able to do reflex saves on their attacks, so that's kind of like a parry, I guess. It basically like a reflex save is when a character, let's say, turns to go face the other guy and gets rid of the backstab bonus that they would have otherwise gotten, and additionally also makes it so that they don't... oh, whoops, right. You go backwards real quick. Go ahead and do one of these. Okay. But anyways, it also makes it so that they can deflect away part of an attack that comes their way. But if you get like a really defensive character, you can make them hyper evasive so that they're just avoiding most attacks that come their way, that they're able to do reflex saves against most things. In the case of Kyria here, she's just somebody that rolled for extreme strength, more or less, because that seemed fitting for the game that she came from. And apparently we're just going to beat up a bunch of engineers here. It seems a bit mean-spirited, but sure, why not? It's going to hurt? Yeah, probably. Get that backstab bonus, and then we get our cryokineticist over here, who's just going to go ahead and mind blast this person's head right off. Now, it's implied, especially in the early game here, it's generally implied that when it comes to the permadeath system, that for the most part, everybody in the team is just looking to wound and not kill. So this is why, for example, you see a lot of teams going and potentially coming back multiple times or what have you. So it's worth noting, generally that is the case. And there are cases where you'll meet up with teams ahead of time, and they'll basically just come up with terms to you, like, hey, look, if we all just agree not to do any kind of severe overkill or whatever else, we can clearly hurt each other pretty darn bad. I think we can all just at least agree not to murder the hell out of each other's teams. It would be better for everyone. We're not going to try too hard to win, but you got to try not to hurt anybody. So you do get not even occasionally, you do get pretty regular kind of alternative objectives during fights. So yeah, you do see a good bit of that. Right now we're just going to see pretty basic stuff, but that will change as time goes on. So let's go ahead and mind blast you. Mind bullet birches. Alright. Go ahead and pick up... I was going to say that looks like a thong, but I think that's supposed to be... Yeah, you just go ahead and go over this way. That's supposed to be a net. Why am I forgetting the... There we go. It's like I knew there was a command to go pick it up. Alright. She got her level. Apparently she can cleave past armor now. Yeah, somehow I hit the button for hiding the UI. Don't know how I did that, but whatever. Alright, so I think that's everything on this map. I just want to see if you can find somebody to heal. There we go. This is what's useful about these lizard guys. They're good for general purpose fighting, but these kind of I swear I'm not a bishop types, they allow for healing somebody up before the end of the fight, and the reason they want to go ahead and do that is because it allows you to it allows you to avoid taking any kind of time to recover from different things. So like they won't show up to camp and just immediately pass out from their injuries or whatnot. So this ends up becoming pretty important over time. So if you have pocket heals, those are useful to have. Alright, let's see. A young boy covered in dust and toting a rough cloth satchel approaches you as you leave the arena. He reaches into the satchel and retrieves a piece of paper covered in woodblock ink type. Wordlessly, he hands it over and moves on to the others in the crowd. Down with the Maharaja. It is said that nothing is lower than a thief, but what about one who steals the power to lead an entire nation? Nothing could be more dangerous. Oh god, that's prescient. Anyway, a Maharaja is made by birth, and most important birth that exists, and yet somehow there's no witnesses to the birth of our own Advan left alive. How could this be? If you spy a man carrying your family heirloom and all of those who were in the room with it are dead, only a fool would not suspect treachery. The truth is obvious. The Maharaja is a fraud, a murderous pretender with no claim to the throne. For the good of Desi, he must abdicate at once. Anyway, let's go ahead and head back to camp. Yeah, this doesn't sound like our problem. So we give everybody free rein, and look at these two getting along. So Natalie notices Ivy nearby. They exchange pleasantries. Then she begins dishing out gossip. Truly, how are they still allowed in the tournament? Which is fair, because there are teams that are basically about compressing people into dust with robots, so sure. See, Lim walks up to Zina. All right, we're teammates, and you need to know what name to yell for Gasul support out here. Hey, you lacks a certain something. The name's Limib. Thanks for making the first move. As long as I'm risking life and limb in fight after fight, I appreciate the chance to get a sense of who I can actually rely on in this place. And she is Xena Longsprout. Persephone tidies up around the camp, picking up rubbish and collecting loose firewood. Apparently she's the neat freak of the party, and that actually helps us out quite a bit. So you don't know the backgrounds of a lot of your characters unless you've made like custom characters or whatever else, and they happen to show up. So this means that a lot of times you're trying to figure out the personality types of the people that are there. So like if somebody's a repairman, even if they're a terrible soldier, they might be really useful to keep around because nobody's weapons are breaking. Somebody that's a chef might keep your food supplies going. Somebody that's a hunter might keep them going positive. Somebody that is a professional con artist might just magically increase your coffers. Anyway, or they might rob you. There's that too. So, let's see. Kyrie, I've been thinking through some problems, and I wanted to get your perspective. Vijay and Kyrie converse at some length. Gradually, the topic turns to favored pastimes. When I had free time during my youth, I would sometimes investigate aspects of the world around me. For instance, restaurants. The way that they serve up new sensory experiences intrigue me. Vijay scratches his arm, and I've made a point of continuing to investigate the phenomenon. Okay, apparently he's somehow tasting food with his wrist, if you say so. Let's see, actually I can't think of anything to say. Never mind. Their date went well. Milton strolls into the center of the camp, and after a moment's reflection, begins performing a series of hauntingly beautiful but melancholy ballads, one after another, long into the night. The mood in camp improves. Seriously, what is this guy's problem? He is some kind of weirdo phantom. Anyway, we'll see if he survives to find out his story. Moving right along to other things. Yeah, we gotta worry about payday coming up in like a week, so that's a thing. Hopefully we have enough money for that. Yeah, if you don't make it to payday, like we're currently about 250 under payday here. If you don't make it to payday, you pay everybody as much as you can, and then morale absolutely tanks, which basically means everybody fights worse for a while, and all of their interactions get way more sour. So it can really depend how that ends up playing out. Anywho, let's go ahead and continue on here. So, Gooped, your mind starts to drift as you wait in line. Abruptly, your reverie is broken by bellowing. We have a busy day today. Lots of matches. Please step up. Well, finally, let's do this thing. So you beat a bunch of engineers. Great. I guess it's time to get matched up against opponents who use actual weapons now, huh? Listen, pal, those wrenches really hurt. Go wait over there. We'll call your teams ready to turn when it's time to fight. I mean, to be fair, they could have put down caltrops. We just ran over them too quickly. These game fun. I like. Okay. So we'll continue having Kyrie just serving as the absolute train of the team. You go here, you go here, you provide some healing support. You go here, you go here, you go here, and we should be good. Let's give out some of those supplies. So, in her case, I kind of want her getting shove. I don't think she has that by default, so we'll go ahead and put that on her. Give her a helmet, because she has absolutely been kicking ass. One small bronze shield, which she can't actually use. So we'll go ahead and give that to this guy, because he actually can. And then we'll go ahead and give you some bifocals. You equip that, you equip that. Practice staff. Apparently this is something that everybody can use, so we'll go ahead and put that on you. Let's see, 4, or this one gives you extra accuracy but less strength. I kind of feel like that kind of helps for him, because he's mostly hitting for... Oh, dude, our clean freak is also a baker. Okay, cool. Yeah, so if somebody's doing stuff in the background, they actually can occasionally do stuff like that, where they'll just sort of create things. Okay, you get one of these, and also one of these, and just Kyria gets everything, apparently. And then you get this bow. Let's see, shoddy, not shoddy. Okay, so new weapon, way better for her. Also, we'll put her into a fight later. We'll just call that good enough. Alright, defeat all opponents. So they introduce one new mechanic here, which is going to be chests. So as before, we're going to absolutely just steamroll our way up this way. We also have the water mechanic introduced here, which hopefully we will not see very much of. She can go ahead and start removing that tree from existence. Alright. Now, I'm not going to worry too hard about getting access to those chests. Alright. That's problematic. Alright, so she's going to need some healing right the hell away. Going to start working on that chest, so probably go through the middle, circle around, deal with their archer and stuff, while they're busy taking all this stuff down. Maybe set some traps over in this direction. Seems like that should work. Yeah, go ahead and drop some caltrops over there to interrupt their turn. Perfect. Alright. You here, freeze this one to make sure that they're hopefully not counterattacking. Alright, didn't get frozen, unfortunately. Meaning this guy's just left with his basic swing. Like, yeah, swordsmen are a good chassis for a lot of things, but they don't really have much going for them in the kind of immediate early game here. Alright, you're going to go over here just to kind of move out of the way here. Going to provide a heal. It's not very much, but this is also why she's carrying bandages. So go ahead and bandage that one. And let's go for an overhead chop. Very unlikely to... Well, actually less likely to hit in general, but worth a try, because that would have just completely finished the guy. This is when it would have been useful to actually have a dancer. So a dancer spearman is actually a really good combo, because you can swing people out of the way. You can trade places with someone. So we might see some problems going forward there. But okay. That's going to be that. Yeah, there's a chance we'll probably see our first injury here. Depends entirely on what that axe guy decides to do. Yeah, we're almost certainly going to see that first entry unless they decide to go for the lizard. Problematic, but this is how it goes. This is why you have backup characters. Don't wait for me, I'll find a way to persevere, and she collapses of her wounds. And yeah, VJ is pretty unhappy about that, but it's alright. We'll still get through this, this fight here, but she will be out for a little while. Given that it was a relatively light knockout, like she wasn't double overkilled or anything, so we should be more than likely fine here. And one stab on you. One whack on Yuck. Yeah, no, actually. Go ahead and put that mace on. There we go. Perfect. Yeah, the training staff, I never even saw that in my first playthrough, so there's that might be a new weapon. Alright, you're going to drop caltrops in a moment. You... backwards. We're going to go ahead and freeze that guy. And then we're going to drop one of those over there. A little bit problematic. She might be in trouble. And you're going to take a bite out of this one. Yeah, that team up top is having a bit of a rough go. But again, this is why we have backups. Things go wrong pretty regularly in this game. It's one of those things that makes it pretty dynamic. See, they really were out to get me! She dies of her wounds. Well, collapses, not dies. So as far as the death system goes, we'll get to see what that looks like in just a little bit of a moment. But if somebody is severely overkilled, there's a pretty decent chance that you just show up to camp and it's just their corpse in a bed. If they are just sort of injured, there's a good chance that they may just recover on their own. Other times, if they are severely injured, then you want to try to get them to a hospital, but that does mean that it does take a day, as well as half of your resources for that day, so it just kind of depends on what you're looking at there. Alright. Now, the reason I'm going for this axe guy is because they're probably going to be the biggest threat here. Swordsman can go pull back, can go take a swing at this one. Now, that is probably not that efficient as far as getting everybody out of here, but I am expecting at least one of them to take a decent bit of injury over the course of the next turn, and then I'm hoping after that we can finally make some progress. Because, yeah, Spirit Guy's going to be able to carve through this guy pretty quick. We should see our Lizard back next round, and then those top two can start pulling back and get a little bit of support. Okay, never mind. Seems like we're going to have a bit more of that. I always forget about how feedback works, because it's basically a health steal. Some kind of evasion bonus or something. Well, he learned skill, and he also learned reflexes, so that's something. Either way, everybody's still standing, and that's a good thing. Everyone's still standing for now, rather. I'm not going to bother going after those chests, and if you're thinking, you know, go after the chests, we'll just end the fight later or something, you actually start getting booed by the crowd if you take too long, so usually it's better to just end the fight and only take the chests if they're convenient. Okay, he just became a lot more defensive, so that's good. This guy's just going to go ahead and move his way up here. Alright. Now you, with any luck... Oh, you actually don't have any means to do anything. Crap. Actually, no, you do. Your cake. You must use your cake. Oh, that sounds dirty. You must use your prodigious cake to win the fight. Alright, anyway, you do that. You get rid of this one. There we go. Probably should have just shoved, because that wouldn't have used any durability on his weapon, but with any luck, that's that. I don't think that guy will be able to use feedback again, hopefully. That's what reflexes is for, by the way. That he would have taken that backstab there, but the reflexes did save him. Oh. Well, I mean... Okay, that can still work. I always forget that one of the benefits of Spearmen is that they are able to counterattack at range. So, this means that they can counter stuff like this. But it's also one of the reasons they really want an unbreakable spear as soon as possible. Alright, this guy has a... Alright, tell you what. I gotta shove this guy. Yeah, I didn't really think that through. Instead of taking damage and receiving or doing damage and taking damage, instead I'm going to take damage and deliver no damage, actually. Also, you somehow dodge from behind. Hopefully this freezes him, though. Yeah, he got frozen. Okay. So then that's basically that. Yeah, the crowd is starting to get pissed because this is taking too long. Well, I'm sorry that he dodged everything. Anyway. Crushed because he is frozen. And that will be the end of the round there. So took 3 casualties, took out 6 guys. Not exactly a very good performance there, but with any luck, those 2 that are building up a relationship in the background will start teaming up with something. Let's see, as you return to camp, Ivy approaches you. She plainly has something on her mind. Commander, perfect timing. I can't seem to make up my mind about what skills to focus on. I've narrowed it down, though. Hold, charge, guard stance, or you need to decide that for yourself, which is not really a good thing. Oh, good. They actually tell you what these do now. These were not. I don't think these were there before. So hold space is stopping enemies from moving for them. So this is basically rampant aura. Charge moves to target. Knockback 2 times 50% chance of stun. Hell yeah. And then +1 counterattacks and +1 reflexes until the next turn. Charge, definitely charge. And then we'll give them free reign for 1 night and yeah, then I'll go ahead and call it for today. So Ivy, feeling the need to burn out some extra energy, spends the evening practicing a combat technique that she's been wanting to improve at. Well, good, we just talked about that. Limib walks up to Vijay. Alright, we're teammates, and you need to know the name. Okay, well, okay, we already know this guy. Sometimes they'll repeat lines. See, I'll definitely make a note of that. It's good to hear everybody pronouncing their names aloud. There are a few things more embarrassing than pronouncing somebody's name for years without being corrected, says Vijay. A guy who I kept calling Vijay, which sounds like, you know... Vijay Sukhatir, apparently. Yeah, a lot of the names are like Indian in origin and whatnot, and I cannot pronounce them at all. See, despite her attempts to hide it, Xena is clearly not feeling well. She goes straight to bed. Well, that probably might be on account of the axe you took to the face, but okay. Natalie sets up at the edge of camp and spends hours running through solo combat drills. Okay. Persephone tries to help out around camp, but her condition is taking too great a toll on her, and she retires to rest. At last, Kyria opens up her eyes and speaks. She's still in the process of recovering from her wounds, but it looks like she'll be back to normal fairly soon. Milton has finally woken up. He'll be back normal fairly soon, and no one stepped up around to clean up the camp today. However, luckily, no one left any messes behind. Camp remains fairly organized. Alright. So that will be that for today, and then we'll kind of continue on the adventures of these teams next time. So y'all have yourselves a good one, take care, and yeah, I guess every one of these episodes can be like a week, which I say, even though it's already not a week, and also sometimes a week is like hours long, so anyway, we'll just leave it at that. So y'all have yourselves a good one, thank you for stopping by, take care, later.